Twice, yes. Alright, good morning, guys. Afternoon, good night, one of them. Right, in the last lesson, we created this entity class, right? And I spoke to the fact that a class is like a blueprint, where when we create an object is an instance of that class. Do you guys remember that? Cool. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to try represent this using Excel. So we know that in our class we have a string title, so we have a field which is called title, which is of a data type of string, right? Yeah. So we know we have that as far as the structure is concerned. So a title and a string, and it also has another thing, an int a cost. So int cost, and we have a couple of methods. We have our constructors. I'm just going to write their constructors because I'm lazy. Setters and getters, you know what those are now, right? And it has, what else does it have? It has a toString and an equals. ToString, an equals, and a method called getDiscountCost. We went over that on the last one. I haven't created a video on that, but on the next one I'll create a video beginning from there. Now, this is called, overall, this is called a game. Are you guys good with that? Yeah. So if we look at this structure here, I'm just going to make it a thick border on the outside. I'm going to put another line underneath this here. More borders. I want to put just a solid line underneath. Just to show you, this is my my class here. Do you guys get this? This is kind of my blueprint of my class that's going around. After we created that, we created this with all structure. So this is a complicated structure blueprint that I've made. I've made this blueprint. You guys get this? Now, in my ratings, I created another class called rating, right? And in my class called rating, now I created another one, field called G, which is of a game data type, right? Now, so I'm going to actually add something to this because I want to show you in my default constructor. I'm just going to work with my default constructors now. That's a little bit annoying. I'm just going to work with my default constructors for now. So in my default constructor, I would have made this equal to blank and I would have made this equal to 0. Do you guys get that? Yeah. Yep. I'm now going to have to spend more time working on my borders. Isn't that fun? You guys get to watch me put borders on things.
Yay!
Yeah.
My favorite pastime.
Okay. So now I've got the borders a bit more in place now. Okay, it's not perfect, but whatever. It's actually annoying.
So why is there a backslash after the...
Because it's special. Yeah, I am now drawing borders on a video. This is going very well.
No longer IT.
Never mind IT, we're learning to draw borders with a pen. Isn't that pretty? No, I don't want that border. Ah, borders are going everywhere. Okay. Now,
Hold the border.
So hold the border. Yeah, no, okay, whatever. This is there. Okay, I am over this. Now, I initialize it using default values just to show you that this is the data container created a third thing. So I'm going to do the same with the rating, where we're going to have the same thing. We've got G called for game, and we have our constructors, our setters, our getters. We also have a toString. So same thing. We'll have here we have a int for rating. So we have an int rating, and then we also have our methods wise. We have our constructors. We have our getters and setters. I've just changed it around just to be special, and we have our toString. So it's the same sort of concept. Now, our default for our game, now this is kind of where I wanted to try. I'm not going to get into this whole thing of making it special on the inside because it was going pear-shaped earlier. My game would actually be a default construction of this game instance. So what I would do is I'd actually create an instance of our game. I'm going to delete this again because technically our class does not have any values. But I would create if you look here, my constructor creates a default instance of my rating. So this rating would refer to say J3, meaning that when I create a rating, I will create an instance of my game. An object of my game will be created. Does that kind of make sense? Okay, I'll try again. Okay, I'm going to go back to the creating instances just now. I just want you to understand that with my blueprint for my game, right, it consists of those two fields. I'm going to make the fields yellow. Do you guys get that? It then consists of a method. So the point is, a game has a structure about it. It has attributes, which are in yellow, and it has methods, which are in, what color should I make methods?
Black.
Okay. Now, so in here, my, again yellow and again blue, we're working with that here.
That looks so nice.
Now, you'll notice that both my game classes and my ratings have attributes and methods. Now, on from there, what if I wanted to create a, I created a method or a class called test. Now test I'm going to delete later because it's not asked in the question, but I actually tested my game. So the first thing I did is I said create a new game called Counter-Strike Source of price 200. And literally what I am doing then is I am creating an instance of a game. So this here, I am creating an instance of a game. I am calling this game a G. Sorry, not that, G.
What a G.
And in this case, my string
Those eggs are not treating you good.
it's treating me badly. Okay, now so now when I do that, I have an instance of my game inside here. So in my test class so far, I'm creating a method called that. In my test class, I have a method called G, which technically is referring to J8, which contains an object with this data here. Do you guys get that?
Yeah.
So I have in my test, so this is now my test class, I've got a local method inside my main. So my main runs, it creates a variable called G, which when it says new, let me go back a bit on this. When I say new game, this here, new game, open brackets, whatever, I'll get you now. I am saying create a new object and make G point to that new object. I also sent through in the parameter, my constructor made my title equal to counter, I'm just going to say CS source, CSS, okay, and my cost was equal to 200. So it created a instance and it created an area to refer to it. Do you guys get that? Yes.
So objects are just like templates?
No, classes are templates. Objects are instances of that template.
So what I meant is like when you log into like Word and it pops up that irritating page every time. It's like, hey, do you want to do some fancy something something? Those are classes. But then when you create a separate Word document of that one, it's an object.
You're slightly off a point there, just on the basis that it's not when you start Word that's a template. A template would be something like this, or a normal template. So for example, when you press, oh, you're saying these here?
Yes.
Yes. These are templates, in other words, pre-existing structures that when you create it, it doesn't directly actually want to create an instance of it. Yes, it's the same thing. So when you open up Word, these templates are like the class structures that you set out. Yes, Shane.
What are instances?
Okay, instances is, okay, so guys, the difference is, okay, so let's just use Word as the example here. A class is like this. An instance would be when I create a instance. Oh, when I create an individual, now when I save it. And it's like, they can be a pupil. Pupil is an idea of a class structure. When you came and you registered at our school, you became an instance. You're a pupil. You actually were an instance. Chippy is an instance. Earl is an instance. Shane, you're an instance. Carl's an instance. Everyone's an instance. Okay, so every single time you create when you create one, like, so for example, in this scenario that I'm going through here, we've created G in our test here. Guys, focus please, this is difficult stuff. When I say game G,
Sorry.
when I have game G is equal to new game, that is creating an instance. It's creating a specific instance to Counter-Strike Source. For the sake of me not having to type out so much, I'm just going to say CSS. Okay. Yeah, Johnson.
So the object would have been in the beginning where the fields are stored.
No. And here, I'm in the game here. I'm creating a structure or my template or this is called a class. I create the class. When I physically say somewhere, I say create a new game, I am running the method. I'm running this method here, which created in RAM. The instance is the instance in RAM specifically here. So for example, here I've got CSS 200. That's specific values of that object. So here, this is an object. So this here is an object where I create an instance which has got values in it. Whereas the structure over here, so the blueprint, is a class. So this could be called a class, and this is an object when I create instances of it. You'll see, so for example, I'll get your question now, I'll see, do you see your hand? For example, if here in my test class, I created two games. I said game G is equal to CSS 200, and I created another one called game G2 is equal to new game, and I said this one is NFS.
Pac-Man.
Okay, Pac-Man. Let's say Pac-Man.
Pac-Man.
Okay, Pac-Man. Yeah, you're right. Now, guys, shh. Now, grade 11s. How many of you understand arrays, understand objects completely? I'm doubtful. Okay, well maybe. Okay. Now, so let's just pay attention to this. As I said, this is important stuff. Now, in that case, I would then have G2. Don't do that. G2. Don't make it yellow. Why is it making it yellow? Why are you being so mean to me today? Okay. Now, I would have no fill here. Now, G2, when I then said is equal to new game, it literally creates another instance of game. So it creates exactly like the game class here. It creates another instance of it. Puts it here. I'm actually going to duplicate this one because I want to have the value areas in. So I'll create another one. This would contain Pac-Man and price 50. And this would then refer to J. So these are like RAM locations, J14. So both G and G2 are instances of the class game. So both the objects inside here and here. So objects are specific instances of it. Alol, your question was next.
So I think you answered it already. I was going to ask why you have CSS as the
Okay. It's because it's the values I sent through in my constructor that I sent through, and so I built it like that. Okay. Johnson, did that help you? Okay, so what we've got now is I've lost my train of thought now. Where were we? Okay. So now this my system.out.println line, this just says access G. So access is the toString method. So when I say, so in my main, I'm just running through my main here. So I'm going to run my main down here, let's say. In my main, the next thing that it says, this is my main method. So it creates this instance, then it says system.out.println. So to the command line, it says refer to G, which is J8. So it goes to J8. It then calls the toString method there, and the toString method is got all the code in it. I'm not going to put all the code there, but it would return the title \n art a200, right? So it'll print that to the outbox. So it goes to that. Now, then it says rating is equal to new rating G4. Ooh, dum dum dum. So rating is equal to new rating, and I'm going to call it new rating G, 4. So it sends it as parameters. So it's going to create a new object of rating called R. So it creates a new instance of this, right? Do you guys get that? It's going to add on extra cells here. So I'm just going to make these two yellow. So it's going to have now, and it's going to have these. I'm just going to make it so it looks prettier. Give me a second. Okay, a bit more than a second because I am having fun with Excel today. Excel's being my friend. Right, so when I go through, I say R1. So I'm creating an instance of these are local variables I'm putting down here. R1 is an instance of which I created inside D12. So it's referring to D12. Do you guys get that? Which is referring to this object. And I am creating a new object and I'm sending G through to it. G is referring to what? The game refers to J8. So in this case, I am also referring to J8. So you get that in this instance of the rating in D12, I am referring to game J8, which is this one here, which is CSS 200. You guys following?
Okay.
And now my rating, the rating that I'm sending through is the value 4. Because I sent through G, which is J8. I'm not creating a new instance of object, but I'm referring to J8 because I sent through G. And it's referring to rating of, I said 4, right?
Yeah.
So it got the rating of 4. So now my rating R1, which is this here, which exists in D12, has got the values. I then created a second rating, R2, and I sent through G and 5. So my second rating, which would look pretty much exactly like this, I'm going to create again. So this one would refer to D18. It starts in D18. So these are RAM locations. Remember, all this is happening logically in RAM they're creating. I'm using Excel to refer to RAM. Okay? Now, in this case, it is, I send through G. So guess what? G is J8. So it's referring to the same location. But this time it got a rating of 5. So now I've got two ratings, one of 4, one of 5, both referring to the same game J8. Now I could, for example, now create another rating. So if I created another 2 ratings, let's say. So now this is going to be R3, R4. And I'm going to say I'm going to now rate game 2, and this time I've got a rating of 1 and 2. Now, you see, I've got 2 ratings now for the same game. So now what would happen here? I would have R3, R4. This time I would have then created the exact same things again. This time the game that I sent through was referring to which RAM position? Which was J14. Okay, so this time there will be J14. So let me just go through this. So J14. J14, and then the rating would be 1 and then 2. So now I'm creating, so this is now referring to D24, and this is now referring to D30.
Nice.
So I'm creating objects in my RAM. So I say when I create an instance, I create a class, which is a structure. When I create an instance of it, I create an object of it. So it's kind of like if you look at, if you're creating something, think of it like a mini world that we can create. We design like a template, and then we can create an instance of it. So we can go, oh, this exists, and we can take down whatever attributes we set for it, we can create. If it was infinite, we could say, look at it as though, okay, we've designed a very complex structure, and then there was that. Yeah, now, do you guys follow that? Yes.
So wouldn't that be an error because you're referring to game 1 and game 2 at the same time?
No.
You haven't made it
G is the game.
Okay, guys, very, very important here. These are separate objects. They do not know each other exists. So the fact that this is called G, this is technically R1 is this one here, right? This is R1. So I'm actually even going to put a reference to this. I'm just going to say here, on the side here, this is R1, right? Now, R1, inside R1, does it know what is inside R2?
You forgot to make G2 count for this 2.
Yeah, for the second game. So you're referring
to
in
J14 as G.
the second 2 ratings.
Yes.
You're referring to the first game, not the second game.
No.
Because you've named the second game G2.
Yes.
And in your rating, you called you're referring to just G, which is the first game.
That's what I'm trying to get at. No, it's not. Guys, this can be quite difficult. Okay. Meaning, because they're separate objects, and I now call them G in multiple locations. Here, game is called G, right? And in ratings, game is called G. But now you've got to realize, inside here, I am passing through G. G becomes G in the ratings. So there's a test.G and there's a ratings G. So in this instance here, I am referring to the rating G. In this instance, I'm in my main method G. These objects do not see each other. Here I've created something called R1, which refers to this with its own variable called G. Each object has its own variable called G. So this G is R1's G. Because it's instance G. It's like the fact that you have hair, you have hair, you have hair. I call all of them hair. But when I'm saying Liam's hair, or I'm saying Connor's hair, which is borderline a bit too long there. Johnson's hair. I'm referring to specific each object. All classes have all objects have G, because the class, the template said that you will have a game called G, but your G is not the same as your G, which is not the same as your G. Does that make sense? There was a question up there. Johnson had a question first, then I'll go to yours, Scott.
So if you're linking it to J14, aren't you linking it to Pac-Man?
Yes.
Then why is it still G? I don't understand how. Because if it's made G as a new thing,
in my test, guys. Okay, let me try to answer this. In my test, ratings 1 and ratings 2 were for the ratings of game CSS.
Yeah.
Then I sent through G2 through to R1, R3, and R4. Now remember, this is R1, this is R2, and I sent through the values of G to these two. So this G refers to J8. This G also refers to J8. This G, which is my ratings 3, refers to J14, because I sent through as a parameter, I sent through that value, so it becomes equal to what is the parameter. Now, I think one of the reasons why it was confusing was because that all of them are called G, which is the same as I call the here. If to make our lives easier, I could have called this, rather than just calling this G, I could have called this game 1. I could have called this game 2. Do you guys get that? And in which case, in here, this would be game 1, and this would be game 2. I don't want you to get confused between this G and this G. This is in the main method. The main method has 2 fields, game 1, game 2, and it has a there was a question over there, then I'll get back to you, Johnson. Yes.
So we're getting confused between these two G's. This one and this one.
Yeah, the point is, every single time I create a new object of rating, it's all going to have a G. Like here, I've got 2 titles.
Oh.
I've got 2 ints. Actually, what I did do is I swapped these around, because I said G game int rating. It should be rating int. No one picked it up. Because if I've said I said that first, I should have stuck with it being the first thing, right? So I did swap that around. That kind of that would have confused me. Did that not confuse you guys?
So you've also done it in the first one. So
Yeah, I did as well.
it was the same.
So let's make all of them the same.
And then the G, so and the G. Yeah, he's got title string, title.
Yeah, getting it. Okay. Now realize, yeah, guys, I messed this around. The reason why is also with class diagrams. Sometimes their syntaxes are different as well. They show it the other way around, but my bad. Isn't this
So much fun.
so fun?
Having such a good time.
Me and Excel are having fun today. Alright,
It's making so much
What
sense.
would that G
Okay, just give me a second. I want to try. I want to answer Liam's question first, and just try to keep track of this G. Guys, quiet please. The issue is this instance has a field called G, and so does this instance have a field called G. So does this instance have a field called G. And what I'm trying to get at, guys, what I'm trying to get at here is that a class is like a blueprint, right? Now think of it like a blueprint for a building. I've created a blueprint for the building. I build a physical building. This one has a kitchen counter which is red. That's called kitchen counter. The variable is called kitchen counter. Guess what? This one also has a kitchen counter. It's also called a kitchen counter. But it's a different building. So when you come up with a blueprint, you determine the names of the fields. So I've called the names of the field G and rating. When I create the instances, they will still be called G. The difference is G in rating 1 refers to the object in J8. G in rating 2 also refers to J8. But G in rating 3 refers to J14. So each object, even though they're still called G, the G in R3 refers to a different position in RAM than your G in... They're different objects. They exist differently. Johnson's question was next, and I'll get back to this.
So I thought because G mainly meant game, so you could just link it to any other game as in J8 and J14.
Yes.
But because you labeled the J1 and J2, I got confused that the Gs would all be linked to the same game, or to CSS only.
Yeah, because you called Pac-Man G2. That's
Yes.
in your code you called Pac-Man G2. So that's why we're wondering why in the G for J14 you don't have to put G2.
The reason why is because when it passes, it only passes the memory location. When in our test, we created game 1, game 2. I've sent through to R1 and R2, I sent through game 1. Now all I'm doing here, I'm not actually sending through game 1. I am just sending through the... You're just sending, let me just draw it like this, memory location. So even though I'm saying send through game 1, I'm not saying that. When I say send through game 1, as a parameter, all I'm doing is I'm sending J18 from my main. I'm saying send game 1 to R1. So all it's doing is it's sending the value J8. It's not sending game 1. It is sending the memory address J8 to game. Does that make sense? The parameters, it doesn't take the whole entire thing, like the actual name reference, it doesn't, because I can't refer to game 1, I have no idea. This here is a self-sustained object. So rating in the constructor would just receive into game, it will just receive, and here it will change whatever it received into G to store as G, as the object G. G will now refer to the same location as the other one. Do you guys get that? Guys, there's too many people, well, 2 people on their phones, focus. Malcolm, you first. Then.
So I just want to see like when you initialize G first, and I still not understand.
You understand now? Okay.
G G to make more objects. You said G equals new game.
Yes. Yeah. So that new means new object. Creates brand new when it says new. Liam and then Scott.
So the G just refers to the actual memory location and not
Yes.
the game itself.
Yes.
Okay.
It refers to the object. Like so, it doesn't refer to the actual. You can't pass through how you refer to it in another part of the program, because how you refer to another part of the program, you refer to it as a different thing over there. So now, remember when I had the pointers, when I had you guys seated down, and I said if I pointed Kyle and Johnson pointed Kyle, there's still only one Kyle.
There's still 2 people pointing.
But there's 2 people pointing at Kyle. So you're creating more than one object which is pointing to the same location. And when you pass through in a parameter, you don't pass through the actual object, you pass through the reference to the object.
Okay, and so like G is reinitialized every single time in each object.
No, yeah, in each ratings, G, it's not reinitialized, it's not initialized there, it just points.
Yeah, like
But
points
it's
to the
a new pointer in each one. Yes.
Okay.
It's a different pointer in each one, yeah.
So like you know you gave a particular game 2 ratings.
Yes.
What if you said the game don't get rating? What would you get?
Well, it depends. If you said you wouldn't get any rating because there's no game, but guys, there is way too much talking going on for something that I know that all of you guys are battling with, and it's irritating me. Do you guys get that? I gave you time to work with this. You guys were struggling, battling to understand, so I'm re-going over this because you're not getting it. I can't have you being this loud. Then you must understand. Just before you continue, I want to get to the question here. He asked me, why can't I just go game for my test? Why can't I just say G1.getRating? I can't do that because G is referring to the game. Sorry, game 1 is referring to the game class. I can't get the rating of game because it doesn't have a rating in it. What I'd have to do is I'd have to look through all my ratings and find out, and I'd have to do an average for all my ratings that is for that game. I can't go and just go, oh, game.getRating, because it doesn't work like that, because I don't have a rating inside game. Game has no idea. Game has zero inclination of what ratings have been given to it. It's just, this is who I am. The ratings have ratings for the game. The rating understands which game it's for, but the game doesn't understand what ratings it has. Does that kind of make sense? There was a question, Al? Yeah, sure. Okay, now moving on from that, are we understanding how these objects are working? So in my main method, I've created an instance of game 1, and these are my classes here. These are my classes, so my structures here are created. Now, the next thing that we had to learn is, you see here, I've got R1, R2, R3, R4. What if I had 1,000 ratings?
Then you're really stuffed.
Again, now, I have to refer, I can't go create R1, R2, R3, R4, R5, R6, R7, R8, R9. It doesn't work.
So can't you create a for loop?
Well, not by referring it to like this. So you're right, we can create a loop. Yes, but there's a syntax to do that. So you're right, you use an integer as R integer. But now there's a syntax to do it. So I'm going to teach you the syntax. Okay? So goodbye. I'm deleting all this. Goodbye. Okay, now on this, I'm going to go, the syntax for this, and I'm only creating this inside my main method. Realize there's a syntax. I'm going to come out of my main method right now, and I'm going to create it in a class called, a Java class called Ratings Manager. Because I want you guys to start getting used to your working classes manage your objects, okay, or manage your stuff in there. You actually have a managing class which will manage all your ratings and do stuff for you, and you would separate that from your user interface. Okay. Now, in your ratings manager, I am going to create 2 arrays. So first of all, remember when we create instances or we create attributes, we start off by saying the access modifier. What is the access modifier? It says who can access it. We then have data type or class object type. And then what's the other thing that we have? Then we have a name, right? Do you guys get that structure? Now, to create a array, first of all, I want to create an array of games. So I'd say game, which is my data type, and now I indicate that it is an array by saying square brackets. Now, I can put square brackets here, or I can say games, square brackets. Sorry? Okay, no, I'm not. Yeah, semicolon to end it with. Now, on from there, if I now go to the other one, private test, sorry, not test, a ratings, square brackets, semicolon. So now I've got 2 arrays. The square brackets indicate that this is an array, meaning that I can have multiple in each one. Now in my default constructor, I would need to say square brackets, sorry, games is equal to new game array size 500. This means that I have 500 positions that are available for my games. And here, I could say ratings equals new rating, and I say size 5,000. So this would allow for 100 ratings per game.
So then for that ratings in that array, that's referring to the total amount, not per game.
And we'll get into that now, because remember, we're actually referring to different objects. We'll get into the idea of aggregating objects and things like that later. So what would happen is we would have 5,000 different ratings. To collate them, we would need to run a method which would loop through all my ratings and then get the average between on or game and group them together or do whatever. That is the other side. I'll get with you. I'll get to you now, Ethan. I just want to answer something quickly first. What I wanted to talk about now is I've got 500 games and 5,000 ratings, which is the same as me now in here creating 5,000 references.
Please don't.
Whoop. Okay. Well, so now I've got 5,000 references all the way up to 104,000. Okay, I'm not going to add that many references, but yeah. So we're not going to create that many references, but you get the idea. It's like creating tons of references, so I could refer to them. But now, because I've got that many available, I'm going to use this. Now, technically, in university, you'd use a list. You wouldn't choose an array of specific size, but we're going to do that anyway. We're going to, because at school level we learn and deal with arrays. So what we're going to do, sorry, Ethan, I'll answer your question now.
So, are there maybe 5,000 ratings?
We create 5,000 because we don't know how many ratings there's going to be. And that is a very good question. Why is there 500 games and 5,000 ratings?
More people are going to rate than
Yes, more people are going to rate than they're going to they are going to be games. But technically, this is not ideal, because ideally I want unlimited number of games and unlimited number of ratings. I shouldn't want to have to put a limit on it, and that's where lists come into it, but that's university.
So you just that now for simplicity.
What?
For lists instead of...
No. The reason why you do not deal with lists when it comes to sorting, searching, doing a whole bunch of other functions that we're going to be learning, lists is a lot more complicated than arrays.
So what happens if you run out?
In your PAT, in your projects, you will use something called an array list for your matric project. In exams, we are going to tell you, I've created you a text file which has 100 entries in it. You're not going to get over 200 entries in this. It's a scenario. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So in right now, we could even say, like, if we're creating for a game store, like a ratings review for a little game store at 4 ways, we're not going to get over 50,000 ratings. Like, you can kind of limit it. Anyway, guys, do you get the point? Now, sorry, do you get the idea that I'm just created, as a system analyst, I just said there's going to be a maximum of 500 games. I dictated it. Okay. Now, what we do need to do, just because I've got 500 and 5,000 spaces, it doesn't mean all 500 positions are going to be initialized. And all 5,000 spaces ratings are going to be initialized, does it? So what I do is I create a counter to keep track of it. So basically what I've got so far is I've got 0. I've got a variable array called, oh, that's not the right one, this is the right one, called ratings. And I've got another variable array called games. Do you guys get that? And in an array, it starts at position 0, then it goes 1, then 2, then 3. And in this case, it would go down to how many?
5,000.
Do you mind if I don't go down there to 5,000?
No, so it's supposed to.
I'll make it. Okay, I'm just going down to that many. I'm not going to go all the way down. Now, and in the games, we would have the same thing: 0, 1, up to 500. Okay. I don't think I got quite to 500 there either, but anyway. Now, so we've got those pointers. They have not been created yet. They're not pointing to anything. They are just pointing references that I can refer to. Do you guys get that? Now, I am going to create an additional thing called, this is called a counter, or if you will, the pointer. So I'm going to say numGames, semicolon, also make it private. And then here I'm going to say numGames is equal to 0. Why am I making it 0? Because how many games are there currently? Oh, there are 500 pointers. But how many objects exist? 0. There has been no game that has been created yet. So there are 500 objects, sorry, 500 pointers, but 0 objects. So now, in this case, I'm also going to create a private int num ratings. Sorry. And that's going to also be initialized to be? Because there's 0 ratings. So there's 0 games and there's 0 ratings to start, but I've got 500 pointers and I've got 5,000 pointers, so those exist. So my default constructor will initialize that. Now, I know some people initialize it directly in here, but then that will do it for all constructors under all scenarios. It's not ideal. In matric level, you'll get full marks there because no worries. You've ensured that you've initialized it. But I like to get the idea that as long as you make sure you do it in every single one of your constructors, it's fine to do it both ways. It's just I've been teaching you the concept that you declare stuff, your constructor initializes it, and I'd rather you keep to that because it's better programming practices. Okay. Now, on from there, we go down to what if I now wanted to add a rating or add a game? Let's work with add a game first. Because what if I wanted to add a game? So let's add game. So I'm going to create a method called public void add game. What variables does a game need?
A name. And how much it costs.
And so when I add a game, I am now going to say games. Now this is where I want to refer to this first position. Now I refer to num games is equal to new game
CSS.
No, bear with me on this. I'm just going to code this up, then I'm going to explain it now. Okay. In my test, I'm deleting all my tests now, because remember, this I'm just testing to show you what's going to be happening. I would go the following. I would say ratings manager rman equals new ratings manager semicolon rman dot add game, and I could send through here CSS, and the price was 200. So now, and then when I wanted to add the other game, I'll just go rman dot add game. What was the other game?
Mario Kart.
Pac-Man, and the cost was 50. Because I don't want to have to recreate my objects in here. So this now, what that would do. Now, notice I have in my ratings manager, I have a variable called num games. In my constructor, it says num games is equal to 0. So num games is here. Now, you guys follow. So num games is at 0, so it's there. So when I send through, in my test, when I say rman.addGame CSS 200, it will physically create a object. So it'll create CSS 200, which has been put into J6. Sorry, so J, is it 6? 8, okay. So it's J8. So I'd be referring to J8, and then I go num games plus plus. So num games is now referring to position 1 in the array. Yes, Carl, your question.
Let's go back to the code. Where you said ratings manager rman was new ratings, so did you just refer ratings manager to rman?
I've given, remember, I'm creating a variable here, aren't I?
Yeah.
I've given it a data type, which is, I'm creating an object called rman. It is of the class type ratings manager, so I'm creating an instance of this. So I'm creating an instance of ratings manager called rman, and I've used the default constructor to initialize it. I have then added the game CSS of a price 200. I've then added the game Pac-Man of price 50. Each time I run add game, it adds the game to num games and it increments num games. So I've done that, and then it would go refer to J14 because I create that instance there, and then I'll increment num games.
So when you ran Pac-Man, what would that refer to? Add game for? Can you go back to your you go back to your test for Java?
That would refer to the same method.
Okay.
The same method which will create a new object inside the array. So create a new object and make the pointer point to that new object.
So can you go back to your class of rating manager? No, the rating manager.
This is rating manager.
Okay. Oh, okay, good. That's fine.
Now, on this, if I added, I'm going to finish the idea of having a lot of games before I get into ratings. I'm going to have a lot of games first. So, let's say I'm going to create another game. Let's create a couple more. So, rman add game. Give me another game. Mario Kart.
Let's see.
Fortnite.
No,
Fortnite.
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 No,
It's
it's
free.
T. T, not GHT. There we go.
And it's free. It's free, yeah.
One last game. One more.
No, you buy skins.
Last one.
Buy them in loot boxes.
2K.
What about those games?
GTA 5. GTA 2K. Someone else with 2K.
No! Nice try!
Guys, guys, shh. Bro, guys, come. Shh. Calm yourselves.
Yeah,
Alright, guys, shh. Now, guys, now, this is not the point. Every single time I do this, it will create a new object in here, and I don't really want it. It will create a new object, add it there. So this is now J22, and I'll refer here, J22, it will then drag this down. And then this was, oh, I now created all of them. And now I've created too many, I'm just going to delete some of them.
Just delete them, so just get rid of them.
Guys, do I have to keep creating more of these objects, or do you get the idea?
Just create Fortnite, then we'll have it.
Okay, I'll end on Fortnite. Okay, okay, now,
GTA 4 was fine.
guys, shh. Grade 11s. Grade 11s. Dean, you are a grade 11, believe it or not. I'm referring to you as always. I'm sorry, Dean. Okay, now, what's going to happen? That was mean of me, Dean, I apologize.
It's fine, so you can short the videos. Yeah, that's true.
Now, anyway, moving on. Now, what we've got there is our num games get incremented by 1 each time. Now, when we've done that, do you guys understand how this adding objects to the array was work? Yes, no?
Yeah.
Adding objects to the array. Now, what if I wanted now to here print out, so in my test, I wanted to print out my sat rman. What do you think will print out right now?
It'll be one line.
And what will that one line be?
View rate, no.
Pacman.ratingsmanager at memory address 15db9742. So we want to overwrite this. I don't mind that, but there's talking going on constantly in the background. You're all telling me that when I went through it quickly, what happened? You guys were battling, you were worried that you weren't understanding. I'm going through it slower now for you guys, and now I'm having talking. This isn't on, okay? Alright, what's going to be happening now is we're in a situation where we want to override our toString here, and we want our toString to represent every single game that we've got. So what we do is we create a string sall is equal to blank, right? So I've created a local variable called sall. I then am going to return my sall. Now I do this because when I create a method that needs to return a data type string, if I want to get the marks for that, I'll always just create a blank version of that data type and return it. Now I don't have to worry about the method. The method is correct, 100% for the method. But now I need to make it so the content of SAll is correct. And the content of the SAll should be the content of my array. So to now loop through every single position in my array, I will loop through all positions in my array. Now if I go for tab, right, it creates the for statement, yes, Shane? I actually mean string all. It just means, yes, it could mean select all as well. It basically just means I create a temporary variable with, I could have called it S, I could have called it Batman. I called it S all because for me it makes sense. But yes, it could mean a select all. That's kind of a cool analogy for it. Anyway, now would I do the following? I could go games.length, which would loop through every single position in my array. Do I want that?
No.
Why not?
This is like 455.
Okay, because there's I do not need to loop through all 500. How many do I need to loop through?
Like 6 or 4 or 5 or something.
Num games number of times. Num games has my number of. Do you guys? No. The one. Guys, good question. Why won't they both work? Let me show you. Games.length. I am not going to say S all plus equals to games at position I dot toString, right? So I'm running the toString from my game, and please remember at the end, what am I doing here?
Putting it on the next line.
I'm making an enter after every single toString. I'm actually going to put 2 enters so I can distinguish between them clearer. Now, if I do that, and I now in my test, sorry, if I now press play, whoa, null pointer exception. Why? Because, okay, it's basically saying, this is what the toString is doing, is it says, go to position 0, call J8 toString. Go to position 1, call J14's toString. Go to position J22, sorry, position 2, call toString. Call toString. Call toString. What's going to happen? No, not a never-ending loop. It's just, it doesn't exist. The object, there is no object. So, it throws back a null pointer exception. If you take a look at my, here, java.lang.null pointer exception. The pointer doesn't point, there's nothing there. You're pointing to something that does not exist. You're not pointing to anything. Null. So it's now thrown an error because I went over the end. So I had to stop it at num games. I'll get to your question now. I just want to show you the correct way before. So if I say num games and now press play, you'll see there CSS 200, Pac-Man 50, Mario Kart 490, Fortnite 0. We've got our games there. They're all printed out. It looped through. I didn't have to print through every single one. Malcolm, you had a question.
So games length like run through all 500 possible positions.
Would what?
Games length the previous
yes, it would be 500, but it wouldn't run through all. Because as soon as it failed, it would just stop. The program would just stop. So it would actually only run until it gets after the last one that was initialized. Dean, do you forgive me?
No, I don't mind.
I really didn't mean to be mean. It was just you were talking.
I wasn't talking though.
You were. Okay, guys, did this help? Okay, we'll continue this exercise last time. Okay, next time.